We have some breaking news from the United States, Lisa. It concerns another phone call President Trump has made.
And this call was made to Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison. We understand it happened in recent weeks that President Trump initiated the discussion, and it was in regards to trying to help the US Attorney-General William Barr gather information for a Justice Department inquiry that Mr Trump is hoping will discredit the Mueller inquiry.
New York Times is quoting two American officials with knowledge of this phone call. This dates back to the former High Commissioner to London, Alexander Downer, meeting George Papadopoulos, a former Trump official, back in May 2016, where George Papadopoulos told Alexander about attempts to get information from the Russians. The Australian government then went to the FBI, Lisa.
And one of the lines coming from the New York Times, and of course we are chasing this story right now and we'll bring comments and responses to you as soon as we get them, but the New York Times is comparing it to the call that was made to the Ukrainian president, and it was saying that the discussion with Mr Morrison shows how the president uses high-level diplomacy to advance his personal political interests.
Let's go straight to Washington for more on this breaking, developing story. James Glenday joins us from the Bureau there. James, good morning. So take us through where this started. Connor Duffy, sorry, good morning. I was going to say you look alike, but you don't really look alike. Take us through where the story started, Kerry, that New York Times story.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Michael. A White House official has confirmed to me that the phone call took place and that the President did make this request of Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison that he assist US Attorney William Barr in investigating the origins of the Mueller report. As you initially mentioned, the story dropped in the New York Times first, but we have been able to verify that it's true. The broader implications here in the US are that the transcript of the call was restricted to a server and placed in an unusual place, similar to the call with Ukraine, which has triggered the impeachment inquiry. We don't know much about the call or what the tone was. We understand in Australia, Scott Morrison's office is refusing to comment at the moment, but I can confirm that the call did take place and that request was made.
Great break from you, Connor, on this story. So many questions raised. Let's get the timeline right. According to the New York Times, this call, which you've now confirmed through your White House source, happened in the weeks, would have been the weeks leading up to the recent state visit there by the Prime Minister.
Yes, that's right. And just from background information that I have from people here in Washington, I believe it may even have been quite some weeks before Scott Morrison arrived in Washington, but I cannot confirm the exact timeline of the phone call. What we do know is that the Mueller report, of course, was triggered by Alexander Downer's meeting at a London bar with George Papadopoulos. Now, here in the US, conspiracy theories have run wild. I've never seen in my life before Alexander Downer been accused of it being a lefty, but that's what happened here in the wake of this inquiry. He was accused of being some sort of deep state actor. We don't know if that's exactly what President Trump is asking to investigate. We don't quite know the specifics of it, but we do know that the request has been made.
Our political reporter, Norda Haider, joins us now from Parliament House. What has been the immediate reaction in Canberra?
Good morning, Lisa. Well, we've just received a statement from the Australian government responding to those reports in the New York Times. The statement reads, the Australian government has always been ready to assist and cooperate with efforts that help shed further light on matters under investigation. The PM confirmed this readiness once again in a conversation with the President. So it's a short statement that we've just received, but confirms that Scott Morrison was asked by US President Donald Trump to investigate the origins of that inquiry into Russian meddling. And we've also heard this morning in an interview on Radio National from Alexander Downer. As you mentioned, he played quite a pivotal role in triggering this investigation. And I think we've got some audio we can play for you.
I've got nothing to say about it beyond what I've ever said. So Yes. I don't know anything at all about conversations that Scott Morrison has had with Donald Trump. That, I'm afraid, these days is not the sort of thing that I'm privy to. It's not just that I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I've just got nothing more to say about it. I mean, I had a conversation with this guy. I passed on the conversation, or the element of that one element of the conversation, to the Americans. And, I mean, there's just nothing more to it.
Now, Alexander Downer had already been appearing on Radio National to talk about China, giving the 70th anniversary of communist rule there. It just so happened that the New York Times broke this story as Alexander Downer was appearing on RN. He's been pushed about it previously. Again, he is putting it back on the Prime Minister's office. There seems to still be many more questions than we have answers, even though we now have confirmation from the federal government that this call did take place.
Well, Lisa, no doubt throughout the course of the day we'll continue to learn more about the nature of this conversation. As you mentioned, Alexander Downer was caught off guard when he appeared or joined RN for a pre-planned interview on another topic. But he said he's not privy to the conversations between the Australian Prime Minister and the US President, and said he had no knowledge of the reports in the New York Times.